The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. While Jesus was speaking, an official came forward, knelt down before him, and said, "My daughter has just died. But come, lay your hand on her, and she will live." Jesus rose and followed him, and so did his disciples. A woman suffering hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched the tassel of his cloak. She said to herself, "If only I can touch his cloak, I will be cured." Jesus turned around and saw her and said, "Courage, daughter, your faith has saved you." And from that hour, the woman was cured. When Jesus arrived at the official's house and saw the flute players and the crowd who were making a commotion, he said, "Go away, the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they ridiculed him. When the crowd was put out, he came and took her by the hand, and the little girl arose. And news of this spread throughout all of that land. The Gospel of the Lord. Every civic holiday, especially 4th of July, I thank God that I am here in Naples with you because we celebrate the 4th of July because we celebrate America. In some places, I'm told this is not true, that there is a negative feeling about America, negative feeling about the great institutions of our country. And it's usually born out of ignorance, not knowing what America is and what America stands for. We live in a world today with a tremendous amount of negativity. Everything is bad. The world is unjust, and America is an unjust nation. And yet, if you look at our founding documents, they are filled with the concept of justice, but justice under God, because it is only with God that we can have true justice, because God helps us to define what justice is. Justice means giving everyone his due, what that person deserves. And if we look through the scriptures, we find it over and over and over again that we have to work for justice. We have to work in our private lives in order for us to sustain ourselves and to show justice to our fellow human beings. From justice comes the other virtues, especially the virtue of generosity and the virtue of mercy. And there has been no more generous country in the whole world from the beginning of time than the United States of America. So you could go around the world and you can see what this country has done to support those people who are in need. Many of you are very familiar, I think perhaps maybe the last generation, familiar with something called the Marshall Plan. After World War II, who rebuilt Europe? It was the United States of America. It was not Russia. What happened in Japan after the Japanese Empire was defeated in World War II? Who rebuilt Japan to make it a modern-day democracy, a very successful democracy? The United States of America. It was not China. We have a lot to be proud of as a nation. And sometimes we forget that. We see all the negative things being portrayed on the news. That's not America. That's not America. Those people are trying to destroy America. Why? Because America is founded upon Christian principles. And if we look back at the very beginnings of our country, we see how the Bible played such an important role in the formation of the Declaration of Independence, the concepts in that Declaration of Independence, rights given to us by God, not by a government. The moral law comes to us from nature and nature's God. And once we lose that idea of God, then we are in the hands of weak, fallible, and sometimes very evil human beings. We live at a time, not just in our own country, but in our own Western Hemisphere, where communism has been gaining a great foothold, especially in South America. Look at all of those countries that now have communist governments and see what has happened in those countries: Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, and now other countries are falling into communist rule too: Colombia, Bolivia. America has to remain strong because America is a beacon of light to the rest of the world. When people begin to think that you can design a country without God, and I'm going to say this too, when you can have a world without America, that's when we fall into darkness, we fall into error. And human beings act in a way that is less than human. And the most vulnerable, those who need justice and mercy most of all, are the ones who are most endangered, the vulnerable, the poor, the sick, the elderly, and the unborn. We have a great fight ahead of us. Many people think, well, we won a great battle with Roe v. Wade. In one sense, yes. But the battle continues. Battle is not just for the unborn. The battle is for America. Ronald Reagan said we're just one generation away from losing it. One generation. Abraham Lincoln said, we're the last best hope of the world. So America has to be strong. America has to be a light. I think of that beautiful Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor, that beautiful torch, that torch of freedom that people have seen as they come into this country for years and recognized that this is a light in the darkness. We have to pray to preserve our country. We have to let young people know the greatness of this country. This country is especially blessed by Almighty God. We are the beneficiaries of this great blessing, this very rich land of ours, this place where we are free to practice our faith and free to express ourselves in order for us to live a more just, a more human, and a holy life. So today I'm going to ask you to pray for our country, not just for the sake of America, but the world needs America to be its beacon of light and strength and hope. God love you.